Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to design an interior room. Let's dive right in. So I just went on Unsplash and grabbed a couple images of a room that I wanted to design. So I'm going to go ahead and pull those in now. I'm going to pull those in as free image planes. So I'm just going to go create free image plane. And I'm just going to kind of throw these images on there. Let me reset my... I'm working on two different projects. So you can see right here, you can have different projects inside of Maya. So if I do modeling and texturing, I can click on set project and I can actually set the project to modeling and texturing, which is already set. So whoops, and I'm good. So now I'm on modeling and texturing and I think my images are right in there. Yep. So I have my images here. I have a few to choose from. I'm just going to kind of do a combination of two of these. So I'm just going to choose this one first. Okay. So this is my first kind of reference for this room. And then I'm going to create another one, create free image plane. And these are both off Unsplash. This one is Gian, Paolo, and the other one is from Hans Erken, Eiskonen. So let's pull both of these in. Thank you to both of them for letting us have these images rights free. Okay, cool. So I just have these two kind of rooms here. And I'm not going to really, I'm just going to use them both as reference. Okay. So these are both going to be my references. If I wanted to, what I could do is actually kind of build this room kind of as a fake room here. So I could use multiple reference from different sources. I'm going to scale this up a little bit. So I kind of want the floor to be the floor to the best of my ability. Okay, so I'm going to pull this up. So right about, I can't really tell, but right about there, that's good. I'm just roughing these in. By no means is this a technical process right here. We're totally just kind of cheating and roughing this in. The floor right here is way back there. So maybe we'll do it like right here. So the floor lines up with the floor. Now this photo's in perspective, so it's not really going to work. So we could cheat it and bring it up a little bit if we wanted to. But now we have this kind of faux room here. So I kind of know what I'm going for. And the next thing I'm going to do is put both of these images on their own layer. So let me switch myself to the other side. So under layers, and I'm in Maya Classic. If I do reset Maya Classic, that's what it looks like. But let's select both of them at the same time. Go to layers and create layer from selected. Okay, and we'll just call this, I just do ref image every time, ref img, done. Whoops. So usually I do all caps. So I kind of do it the same way every time. Well, I try to. Okay, reference image, and then just make this a reference. These are done, can't be selected. Okay. The next thing we want to do is check our space here, because I don't think the grid looks a bit small. So we want to change the grid spacing. We are in centimeters, so we do need to get a quick centimeter size for a room. But before we do that, let's go ahead and change our grid size and double click, right click the grid options. I think I do. So what I usually have this set to is 50, 10, 5. Yep, so this looks pretty good. So there's my default grid spacing, or sorry, not the default, I made my own, and I can back these up a little bit. Well, what I need to do next, actually, really quick, is do my measurement test. So I need to figure out how big my room's going to be. This is going to be a decently large room, so let's go ahead and say it's going to be, so 10 feet is going to be roughly 300 centimeters. So let's just start off with that. So we're just going to kind of see make a box here really quick. And we know that the width of this, let's do 300. The height, let's just leave that. Let's do 10. Oops, sorry. Let's do 300 as well. So the ceilings will be 10 feet and the depth 300. So now I have this giant 300 by 300 cube here. Okay. Now you can see the grid is now too small. So I can pump the grid up a little bit because it needs to be a little bit larger. So, I mean, the room's 300. So the grid size maybe needs to be 500. So now I have this giant grid here, and this needs to be changed as well. Grid lines I could do 100. That's going to be pretty spaced out. Subdivisions every 10. Let's see what that looks like. There, whoops. Actually, I liked 5 better. Let's see what that looks like. That looks okay. Okay, so 100. So I'm at 500 by 100, grid lines every 100, and subdivisions every, let's do 10. So go ahead and close that. So now I can see this is the general size of my room. So what I could do a couple different things. Since my reference images are now back on, I unlocked those. Maybe. I can't get those selected. Let's see, I think I can select over here. I think if I right click, yeah, select objects. So you can actually select the objects on that layer, which is kind of cool. Now let's scale our images up because they are way too small now. Okay, so now we're looking at probably closer to the size of what this needs to be. So we'll put this on the ground again. That's pretty darn close. Same thing with this. Let's just push this back. So these are going to be kind of on the outside of the grid there. And again, they're just reference. And if I want, because it's perspective, I'm just going to pull it up. This one's really, the perspective on this is a little bit deeper than the perspective here. So, okay, so this is my general room size, and those are referenced. Now I can't select my reference images. I just have this general room size cube. So I kind of know how far out this needs to be. I don't really need the height right now. Okay, so I don't actually need the height for this. So what I could do is just delete this. I just wanted to get a quick reference, and then we're just going to do a plane. I'm going to turn on the grid snaps. Make sure I'm snapped in the center there. I think I missed. Whoops. This is a little bit tricky. This one is not grid snaps. That's view planes. This is grid snaps. So plane again. Grid snaps. Now we're snapped into the center, and we know we said 300. 300 by 300. Okay, so this is roughly the size of our room. Whoops. And right now it's on the bottom of the grid. So we're seeing that grid kind of go through this. So this is 10 feet by 10 feet. We could pump this up a little bit. Let's make it a little bit, let's change the width a little bit. Maybe even let's go a little bit further. Let's do 400. Okay, so now the room's just a little bit longer than it is wide, but this is 10 feet, so if we would, this would fit a basketball hoop right here. So that basketball hoop, that 6-foot person, remember, is about 180 tall. Okay, that's roughly around 6 feet. So the doorways and such would have to be larger than that. So it's still, I mean, it's a decently sized room. We could actually probably go a little bit bigger. Let's just go for it. This is a pretty big room now. Okay, so this is a extremely, well, not extremely large, but much larger than it was. So I'm at 600 by 400. So that kind of fits kind of the look I'm going for this. So I do need to get that sizing kind of right off the bat, and I can use this plane to kind of do that. So this could be the floor. The plane could be, basically the floor could be done. Now I have two different approaches that we could take to this, but the one that we're going to take first is just kind of build this with cubes. So the nice part about this is, notice that it matches up the grid there, really nice. So I could just build a box and then just pull this up, and there's a wall. Okay, that's a pretty good option. Now the problem with that, there's a polygon on the bottom there that's not being used. That's not a huge problem. It does let us change the size of this wall pretty easily because it's just a polygon. I'm going to turn off grid snaps for now, but I can change the thickness of this wall. If I wanted to get really technical, I could look up the thickness of like drywall, or what the thickness of a wall should actually be. I'm not going to do that because it doesn't matter. No one's ever going to see the exterior of this wall, so no one's ever going to see that. And another thing, it is kind of annoying that that the floor is right on the grid there. So if you wanted to bring that up a little bit in Y, you could. Maybe let's do 10. So it's a little bit floaty right there, but it's better than looking at that grid. That grid can be kind of annoying as it's kind of chopping through that floor a little bit. And you will see a little bit of, because we're working now to scale, you can see sometimes a little bit refresh issues on some of the objects. They'll get like this kind of darkened, kind of beaded edge right here. So you see those little black beads along the edge. That's just because we're working on a much larger scale and it's clipping just a little bit with the refresh. So you might see that on your display as well. If you run into errors or have problems working to scale like this, to full size, you can work smaller and then scale it up at the end, because some computers don't do well calculating this larger scale. This is going to be more calculation. So you can work still small, like shoebox size, and then just scale the whole thing up at the end. That can be a little bit trickier, but that is another method. But I would start big, and then if you have to work small, do that. Don't do the opposite. Don't start small before you try and work big. All right, let's pull this down just a little bit. Maybe 2, 1.5. Okay, so we're at 2. 2 looks like the minimum. It's floating a little bit, but that's fine. You can still see it happen a little bit. That just annoys me. I'm just going to go 5. I don't really want to see that happen at all. Okay, now we're good. So here's my basic room. There's my basic person here. So we already know that the wall here needs to be 10 feet, and I already changed this, but let's see what we have here. So we're about 400. I think we were at 400 here as well. Yeah, 400 by 400. And then let's do 300, which is 10 feet for the height. Switch back over there. Whoops. Maybe we'll do 300. Okay, 300 for the height. And we're snapping a little bit funky here, just because I still have grid snaps on. I could just kind of push that down on the ground there. Make sure it goes, either it's okay to actually go through this because no one's ever going to go under the ground. So it could go through. Oh yeah, and plus this is up here. So I could, 2 things I could do. I can move the pivot of this with D and then hold down V to point snap. I could snap down to the grid, to the bottom of this. And then now if I turn on grid snaps, this will snap to the grid at the bottom. Let me focus in on that. Yeah, that looks right. Oh, no, I missed. I thought I did. Do V. Okay, now I'm at the bottom. There we go. So now if I have grid snaps on, which I still do, this will snap to the bottom. Oh, I still wasn't all the way at the bottom there. Try that one more time. D, V. Let me turn off the grid snaps. That is Y. I want the point snaps. The point snaps is going to give you a point. So it doesn't have a point. So if I do this, then we go. Now I'm at the bottom. And then I can turn off point snaps. And I can just move this to the center. Doesn't really matter, but now I'm set. So now when I turn on grids, this will snap. Whoops. D to turn that off. Now I can snap to the bottom. So that's snapped up to the bottom. There we go. Okay, cool. Maybe. Oh, that's still not centered. So I'm going to leave it at the corner, actually. D, V. Because then I can definitely snap this to the corner. Oh, I keep turning on grid snaps while I'm trying to snap. There we go. So once, what I accidentally was doing, grid snaps were on, and I was using the V shortcut, which is point snap, but it won't work if you try and do both. There we go. Now we're set. So now that's nice and locked in. And it doesn't have to be that perfect. It's not really even going to matter. So there are a couple different ways I could do the wall. And I'm kind of copying this wall, which you can see. And actually, this is painted. It's kind of like a faux 3D wall here. I'm just going to kind of make it the real version of this. So what I'm going to do is chop into this a little bit. I'm going to go to my modeling toolkit. And I don't need all this stuff here at the bottom. I don't need my time slider. I don't need my range slider. I don't really need my script command line window. I'll keep, no, I don't even need the help window. Look how much more space I just saved. And I don't really use this that often, to be honest. I'm not really using the shelf right now. I'm going to just use this. And I don't even need the workspace. So the one that I think that I made is called, I just called it modeling best. It just removes all that. And I'm just using the modeling toolkit. If I need the outliner, I can get back to that. General editors. No, sorry. No, I thought it was in general editors. Why don't I see the outliner? I can see it. It's right here, outliner. So I can use the outliner if I need that, but I mean, I don't really need it. So I'm just going to work like this. You can still work in Maya Classic if you want. This just gives us a little bit more screen real estate to work with. All right, I'm going to use multi-cut. I can get it over here or hold down Shift, multi-cut. The shortcut for that is Control. I do actually have a snap still set on here. So you can see sometimes I'll even switch back to Maya Classic. Let me reset Maya Classic because I accidentally had grid snaps. I forget the shortcut for that. Is it Control X? No, it's Alt X. There's a shortcut for snap to grids, but I don't remember it. So sorry about that. Let's go back to my modeling. I just call it modeling best. Okay, now I'm set. Actually, we'll just work in. Okay. Hopefully that doesn't make it confusing. But let's go ahead and go into edge mode. So right click, let's go into edge mode. Let's get multi-cut and now hold on Control. So I'm going to chop this up a little bit. Actually, I can use Connect tool for this. If I go through both of these, remember Connect tool gives us that variation. I always forget the shortcut for this too. Yeah, it's Shift center mouse click. We'll add more segments to this. And then Shift Control maybe? Actually, it's just center mouse click. I'm sorry, not Shift. Just center mouse click and drag. Click down on the center mouse wheel and drag left and right, and you can add more segments. Oh, so fast. And then there's a way to shift these too, but I don't remember. It'll tell us right here, I think. I'm gonna watch the video because I forget. Oh, maybe it won't tell us. I thought it would tell us the shortcut. Oh, here it is. So adjust the active connect option. Oh, okay. So I just have to switch it. If I switch it to slide, then I can slide these with the center mouse wheel. So that is really, really nice. And really, it's way easier to do that than to click on the buttons because they don't make sense. I mean, you can still type in this in if I want to keep this at 0.5, but it's a lot easier just to kind of snap those in. So if I select segments, middle mouse wheel, I can get 4 segments there, which that's pretty much what I want to do. And then I have the slide, which I don't want to do on this one, but then I also have pinch, which I do want to do on this one, because I'm going to pinch this and kind of move this over. And I don't really want to type in a value, I just kind of want to eyeball it. So that's pretty good. So that's going to cut all the way through this piece of geometry. I can just hit enter to apply that. And then for face, let's go ahead and select these faces. I'm just going to pull this face forward. I do need to make sure that my smart duplicate settings are on. So double click the move tool here, smart duplicate, shift drag, and shift drag copy. So now I can just shift drag this out. And I can't really go back because I'll go into the wall back there. So what I probably want to do is pull all of these forward. Okay. And then I'm going to push a few of them back. So I'm just going to pull all of them forward with an extrude. And then pull this forward. And then maybe I'll even inset these two. So I can do the extrude here, or I can right click and hold and do extrude face. Sorry, offset. I always call it inset. Just click extrude again. Just kind of push this in. So I gave myself just a little bit of space, because if I go too far, I'll go through the back. I don't want to do that. Cool. So I have this kind of nice little fake wall there. And you know what I should have done, now that I think about it? I should have added another connect on the edge here, because I want to pull out from this if I wanted to. So I could have done this. If I had another connect when I originally designed that portion of the wall, I could actually pull the next wall out from here. Right? So I could have pulled that next wall all the way out. Now that depends on how I want to kind of do texturing, because if I make this, depending on, that's really what it comes down to. This could be separate pieces. Okay, so this doesn't have to be one giant, the whole room doesn't have to be one polygon, or sorry, one piece. Okay, I can do separate pieces for this. So that's completely up to you how you want to kind of do that. So you can see these are pretty large. There's my person there. And these windows are going to be very large too. I'm not going to do it that way. but I could, because I'm going to make one window, and then kind of just, well, I can do this 2 different ways too, but let's undo that. I don't want to keep that. I'm just going to do another piece here. So that's pretty much done. I don't know, I kind of like it. Kind of has this setup there. If I want to add more detail to this specifically, and I'm going through the ground there, but don't forget, I just lifted up my ground plane, my floor plane, because I didn't want to see the grid. So it's fine that it's going through it right here. That's not really going to bother me. But I think that looks pretty neat. And I could just throw the roof on top, really. I'm probably not going to put it on right now because we won't be able to see in there. But let's do the next portion. So remember, we could do that 2 different ways. If I had planned, I would have done the connect. I'll just show you where. I'm just going to undo because it's not that far back. When I did that original connect, right here. So if I had planned that out a little bit better, when I did that original connect, I could have added an extra segment right here. So you see that extra segment now? That would have given me exactly what I wanted if I was going to extrude out from there. But I'm not. I'm just going to, whoops, I can't undo. So, but I don't want that. I'm just going to do it this way because it gives me a little bit more of what I want to do and show you. So I'm going to pull these back out again. And I switched out of my other modeling version. Whoops, and it also undid my tool. Okay, let's pull these back out. All right, pull this one out a little bit more. Let's extrude both of these. Or shift right click, extrude faces, offset, and click extrude again. I can actually do, I think, extrude face again from there. It's the same thing. Okay, pretty deep set there. And if I wanted to, I could add a slight bevel to this. Not that much, just a tiny little bevel on that edge. 0.5. Whoops, 0.05. Sorry. There we go. That's actually a pretty big bevel. Let's do a little smaller of a bevel. I want to make sure that didn't add a face. No, it didn't. Let's do another bevel there. 0.005. Oh, that's too small. That's probably actually better of what it would be, but I'll never be able to select that. I don't even think it's going to make a difference. So I'm not going to do that right now. If I want to do that later, I will, but I think it's fine for now. I'm going to leave it pretty hard edge for now and then add details as needed. I'm just going to block this room out. That's what I'm doing here. Big chunks of blocking. So you can see there's another portion here too. Actually, see how this kind of comes, this kind of crown molding? I could chop that into this as well. If I wanted to pull this out from this piece, I could do the crown molding through that. So I could have had that edge before I set that inset. I could have chopped up an edge here and then pulled that crown molding out both sides, which I'm going to do it in chunks. I'm going to do each wall kind of separate